I am so excited that we're going to be talking today about Etsy SEO because it's one of my favorite things to talk about for a couple of reasons. It helps your shops get found better. It helps you rank in the right search terms because you could rank perfectly for the wrong search terms and still wind up with no sales, right? And last but not least, if you know this solid skill, you will be able to just easily sit down, start your listings, do those, get a good idea for what your target keywords are, how to do your tags, and all the things we have to do while we're doing our Etsy work. I'm going to cover three things in this. Nerdy first, how search engines work in general, because I think one of the things that is such a mystery to so many Etsy sellers is functionally how it works. Well, I have no tricks. I just know how search engines work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is how to functionally find keywords that are going to help you rank for the search terms that you want your shop to rank for. And last but not least, we're going to talk about how to do this in a systematic way so that every time Etsy changes, and this is a little secret, they're going to change again, you'll be ready for it and you won't have to keep scrambling all the time. I try to keep it really, really simple. It's going to be a combination of these talky talk videos as well as some on-screen. I know we spend most of our time in front of the computer, but I do want to be able to show you exactly how to do things, and I'll try to keep it short because this should be something you learn quickly and not have to take, a college level course to get and understand. So I wanted to take 1 minute and tell you a little bit about why I started my Etsy store and let you know what my credentials are, because I think that's super important. If you're going to listen to somebody, make sure they know what they're doing. I have two Etsy stores. One is So Glamorously Vintage, which has vintage products in it, and it's a newer store. So it's amazing how easy it is to sell on Etsy. They have the buyers for us already, and as long as we're presenting our items in the correct way, we will be able to get found in search and we will be able to make money. If it's your full-time business, that's awesome. I really respect the men and women who are doing this full-time. If it's a part-time gig or you're trying to work your way out to where it's a full-time gig, all the tips in here will help you do that. Oh, and just a quick word about the animals. There's a good chance you'll see a fluffy dog, a beagle, a motley cat, or a fluffy cat. Thank goodness the lizard doesn't walk around the house in these videos. They like when I talk and they come over. And if you're selling Etsy physical goods and have pets, you know how often they get interested in our work. So I edit out any time that they cause a ruckus, but if they're just roaming around, I leave them in. So now let's talk about search engines, because I think one of the things that is such a mystery to so many Etsy sellers is how does their keywords work? How do the other keywords work? How do search engines work? And Etsy's search engine is based on computers and words. That's how every search engine works. So what they're saying is we're going to take a keyword and we're going to make sure that if somebody searches for that keyword, they find what they want. But think about it. There are so many ways to put a set of keywords together. So when I lived in Colorado, I was always looking for hats, right? Like woolly hats, and then I would do those hat bands. And thank the Lord, now they have messy bun hats, which is where you can stick your ponytail out the top of it. And you could say messy bun hat, you could say messy hat, you could say knitted messy cap, you could say bun cap, knitted bun cap, crocheted bun cap. There are a lot of different ways to do that. Now we get so many characters in our title, and so first thing, use all of them or as many as you can. If I have 4 or 5 at the end, I don't try to make up a word to get that to the very end of the amount I can use. But I try to use as many as I can. And then we also want to think about your tags, because one of the things that Etsy itself has said is that if you have your tags in the exact same order as you have them in your title, so if you have messy bun hat, put messy bun hat in your tags exactly that way. So how does Etsy use those keywords? Well, they have what's called an algorithm. And an algorithm means that computer programmers have sat down in a room and said, this is how we're going to rank the different listings in Etsy. And the one that we can control is how we do our titles and tags. Now, there's other ones that we can sort of control and ones we can't control at all. So recency is another Etsy item that they look at. And recency means that you have renewed that listing in the nearer past. So that's one of the things. So a lot of people will say, go ahead and renew your listings, do all that. I don't always agree with that. In my shops that have static listings, like that don't renew constantly, I renew at least one every day. In my vintage shop where I'm constantly putting new products in and things are getting sold, I just list products, right? I don't need to renew. It's not the act of renewing that does it. It's the recency of that renewal or that addition of a listing. Another thing that's important in their search engine is the conversion rate. And what conversion rate means is that if somebody comes to your listing and they see it and they leave, that's bad, right? There was no conversion. Nothing happened because of that visit. Another thing that could happen is somebody could favorite it and save it for later. And that is a good thing, right? They could always come back. They're going to see your shop updates. Lots of good things happen within Etsy for that. But it does count as a conversion, and in the algorithm, it probably has some weight. Nobody knows exactly what happens, but we can make some pretty good guesses. Last but not least, they could purchase. So that's the perfect conversion, right? They came to your shop, they saw your listing, they bought. And what is very clear when you look at how Etsy ranks things is that having lots of views with no conversions is bad. And when I talked about you could rank well for keywords that don't matter, but it's not a good thing, this is what I'm talking about. Let's go back to our messy bun hat lady. So say she sees on a message board that stocking caps are the thing. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna do all my listings for stocking caps, and then come to find out that stocking caps don't have a hole in the top, right? Or they're men's stocking caps. They're not man bun stocking caps, they're men's caps. She could get a lot of views. She could change her picture so it's not so obvious that hair pulls out of the top, but she won't get sales because that conversion won't happen. Nobody will buy those. We want to make sure as we go through this, and I'm going to show you how to do these things, how to do this research and make sure that your listings are done correctly. You're going to make sure that you are targeting the exact keywords that a buyer of that product would want to see. So that's the nerdy part. That's the worst part. There's no math. I'm in marketing. But that will show you how to go ahead and start to do your Etsy SEO and help you understand it a little bit, because that's kind of confusing. The first thing I want to talk about in how to figure out which keywords to use is using things that are around you. You probably watch TV. I don't watch much TV, but if you are selling something, you want to start really watching TV to figure out what kind of styles people are wearing, how they're decorating their homes. If there's certain trends, you could go to trend watch shows. I know there's like, the red carpet one, the Fashion Police, things like that. And you can start to get ideas about fashion. Watch the home shows, see what's hot. Like right now, I'll probably date this video because next year it'll be different, but copper's hot. So if you're selling vintage or you're selling home goods, you can't go wrong with copper. You're going to want to check other sites like Pantone. Pantone has a color of the year. So one year it was rose gold, and it hasn't really faded from rose gold. One year it was this kind of really fresh green. And what you want to do is, it's so cool as Etsy sellers that we can react to trends in ways that other people, that big companies can't. So if they decide, Pantone decides next year that copper, the color of copper, is going to be the hot color in your homes, on your body, everywhere, we can make products or source products or find products that are that color a lot faster than a big ship like Walmart can get their whole line to that color. So that's one of the real benefits that we have. I also love, on my iPad, I have an app called Texture, Texture. It allows me to see, gosh, like 30 magazines. So since I sell vintage, I have Architectural Digest and Country Home and Coastal Living. If you were selling fashion, you would have all the fashion magazines, all the rags that like people that show what everybody's wearing and how it goes. There's men's magazines, so you can see what's going on there. So it doesn't really baby magazines, kid magazines, brides. I mean, they have everything on there. So if you are, and it's ridiculously inexpensive. I think it's $10 a month for every magazine that human beings would want. Or, and this is a trick from my dad, you can go to most Barnes and Nobles that are that have Starbucks, grab a cup of Joe, and then sit and thumb, easy for me to say, through the magazines and really start to get a feeling for what's going on in the big wide world. I know as Etsy sellers, it's really easy to get stuck in our homes and to really start thinking about what we do as being in a bubble. But the more you can get out there and the more that you can create, source, get things that people are interested in right now, the more chance you have of selling. For example, I was at a estate sale the other day, and I only have so much money, right? And there were some amazing copper pieces that were more expensive, and then there were a whole bunch of silver pieces that were cheaper, but I knew that they would not sell as quickly or for as much money. So instead of going with a whole bunch of cheap stuff, I bit the bullet. I spent a little bit more, and I actually got those copper pieces. One of them sold already, and then I don't know that I've listed the other ones. So those are things you're going to want to look at. Now hang in here with me because I'm going to show you some online things that you can do too. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of how we're going to find some good keywords, right? Because this is all about finding keywords that you're going to be able to use to sell your products. So one of the things that I am looking to get in my life are boxes. I have total storage issues. I love buying boxes. So what I might do is I might start with looking up boxes, right? And then I'm going to start to see, oh, these are boxes, right? I don't want boxes. I want, and then let's go through here and see how Amazon is categorizing things. So I actually want to get boxes. Decorative craft paper might be okay, but I really want it in like home and, ooh, handmade. Yay. Okay, cool. So this is awesome. So I would want to start to look here and see what kinds of words people are using. So this is a rustic box, a wedding chest, right? Now all of these won't work for you. I love this box, wedding card box. That's very cute. So these are all kind of wedding boxes. I don't want a wedding box. I want a home decor box. Let's try that. Ah, here we go. Mason jar centerpiece, right? That's handmade. I'm getting a lot of handmades. I think I may be still in that handmade category, which is excellent because that is kind of where I want to be. Okay. So what you want to do is, oh, here we go. Rustic planters box. Okay. That would be a really good box word. Mail holder, mail organizer. So that one is really cool because you're talking about what the function of a box. This one could also be the function of a box. So let's go to Etsy and see what some of these words bring up. So rustic, and that was mail holder box, right? Because what you want to start to understand, and there she is, that lady's doing really good. But what you want to understand, that's really cute too, is that people are trying desperately to find something interesting. Now, see, this is exactly what I would like to have in my office. I love little compartments. I think they did a really good job of doing that. Let's see, is this a handmade item? Limited quality, large mail organizer. Order today before the best price for the holiday rush. Now, considering it's April, I think I'm good. So you may want to pop into your listings, especially for top sellers, every once in a while and make sure that it is good. You got the dimensions. I love how this is. Let's see what her pictures are. Think about it. I didn't actually wind up with a box, right? If I was the shopper, this isn't a box. It is a mail holder, but that's the way you want to start to think about the intent of your buyer, is what could your product do? Now, another place to look that's really good is eBay. So let's say that we're looking for something cool. Okay, some lights. So I would look up vintage lamps. That honestly, doing my searches on eBay gives me a lot of good seed words, like ways to generate keywords that I might be looking at. So piano light, baker's desk light, office. Those are all really good words that people are going to be using. Boudoir lamps, right? So let's go back to Etsy and see what boudoir lamps. Let's copy this because I am not your world's best typist. And then we would go to boudoir lamps and see, oh, these are beautiful. That's really nice. Now, I don't have boudoir lamps, right? I have a lamp almost exactly like that. So I named mine white hobnail lamp. So maybe I want to think about putting in boudoir. As you're doing your SEO, yes, you want to do it when you do your listing, but you also want to continue to update that listing, to finesse it, to see if you can find any more keywords that would go with it. I just want to start this section out by telling you that I am a total Etsy fangirl. I have never sold for a company, and I've sold on all different platforms over the years. I've sold on Amazon, ebooks on Amazon. I've sold on Shopify. I've sold all different kinds of places over the years. And the amount of support and the information that Etsy gives us, while sometimes it can seem overwhelming, is actually really telling. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of the ways that they give us information and really show you how you can use that in your shop to help get your keywords ready and hopefully, fingers crossed, make some more money. The first thing that they send that I really love is this community news. And what they'll do is they'll highlight one of the sellers, and then they usually have some kind of rah-rah thing, and then they'll tell us about top tips. And there's a lot of good tips in there, but this is what I love. This is Etsy sellers in the news, and they'll find the big stories that have Etsy shops listed in them. That's where we're going to start to be able to find some new keywords that we want to rank for. So these are the 3 beauty product shops on Etsy that you'll wish you know about. But what we want is mermaid inspired highlighter. Who knew mermaid highlighter would be a word? Now you probably, if you're in skincare, you know makeup and skincare. But now we have acai berry facial cream mermaid highlighter. Now, do you want to just copy this lady and say, oh, I'm going to make a mermaid highlighter? No, you want to try to figure out, is there a way you can work whimsical keywords in? Just so you know, the way that BuzzFeed finds shops to target is they need a ton of content. And so they're always looking for amazing new products. They're looking for things to feature. My guess is they probably have an affiliate link on there, and they're probably going to make some money for that click through. But that is really, really neat. Here we have lip stain, organic bath and beauty, herb crafting. Never heard of that. Want to figure out if these are actually keywords that people are using. Insect repellent, natural insect repellent. I know that that's really important because the bug community loves me, and so I use natural bug repellent. Go ahead and try to figure out a couple things, why they like these items, and then if there's any keywords that you can find. Now, another one of the another one of the articles that they recommended was this one, Men's Health. So funny that they picked the girliest picture for that Men's Health article, but it's all about these different things that are selling on Etsy for men. I kind of feel like they should have called it Neon Light. If you're selling to men, a good thing to know is that they like these different words, like men really like bacon. That's a thing. They would feel really good. Hustle. They like pigs because pigs bring bacon. They like sporting. They like shoes. Those are all things that you could start to think about when you're sourcing or making products based on what's really in the universe being very well received. The next thing that Etsy does is they send out this everyday email, Etsy Find. I understand it can start to feel overwhelming when they're sending a monthly newsletter about this and a daily newsletter about that. And I'm not talking about you spending hours a day doing this, but I'm talking about you having a little notepad by your side, and when you see some words, you go ahead and write them down. This is based on what I like, so I'm a little obsessed with Alice in Wonderland right now. Those are your own obsessions, so you know what you could do? You could go actually favorite some things in the niches that you're thinking about going into. But then now we want to look at what is going on with the Easy Home update. This is not a shocker. It's copper. Then you want to kind of take a peek and see what they're talking about. And it always surprises me because it hardly ever feels to me like when I click through to it that what the home essentials are is the same as what they have in the picture. But you want to look at design trends, spring entertaining. What colors are they used? Is there anything that you could home, it's spring, so it's home organizing. Bar cart for us vintage sellers. If we were going to pick up a little, we might call it a side table, but darn, call it a bar cart. Go into some of your old listings and name some of these things that people are actually doing. So home gallery, fiber art, vintage art, minimalist art, all those things are things that you can do. Bedroom decor, those are all things that you can start to look for. Now, let's go with these copper mugs, because those aren't necessarily vintage. Those could be your regular handmade seller. This is what's really good. This is probably my favorite way for finding really strong keywords in Etsy. Is it copper jewelry, copper ring, mug? So copper mug, not copper mug. Let's do this real quick. So we did a search for copper mug, and let's take a real quick look. So we got limes. Let's do copper mug. And they moved around. They didn't necessarily go away, but they totally moved around in their order. Simple things like I would go with copper mug early in my listing title, and then I would have copper mugs at the end, or I would have copper mugs in my tag. But that's what you want to do, is you want to, especially if you're thinking about making something new. Say you were doing, let's go back to our friends, the wedding rings. Wedding. Okay, so wedding ring set, wedding robes, which we got from the wedding ring box, women, wedding rings, women, his and her, dish. So then you start to really look at those and just see what happens. Wedding rings, women. That's funny because that's a man's wedding ring. What you can do is you can go in and you can look at the people that are ranking the top for wedding rings, women. So wedding bands, women. Wedding rings, women, right there. They have this in their title. Now, I think people should do whatever they feel like. This person has really squished everything together. There's no spaces between the commas. There's no information, but I would be surprised. There's wedding rings women. So that's where she did. You can kind of go and see. Now, I don't copy anybody else's stuff. So now we want to see other reasons why she could be ranking well. So she's had 832 sales. She has quite a few favorites. I guess Avi is a man. Let's stop calling her she. He's in Jerusalem. Those are the ways that you can use this search toolbar up here to really find some neat ideas for your keywords. Last but not least, I want to talk to you about why you shouldn't be sad. And it is so hard for me to watch, and it's heartbreaking to watch the people, the sellers on the forums, on the Facebook pages, who hear that there's a change to the algorithm, and you can hear the tears in their voice. They're like, oh my gosh, I just got this figured out. I did all this work, and now everything is changing again. So one of the things I want to assure you is, because we're not using strategies and tactics, right? We're not doing anything creepy. We're just using good, solid SEO, Etsy SEO strategies. We're not going to get hit as much by those little changes. For example, they just changed the attributes, and I have 350 items in my vintage store, and I was like, seriously? But I sat my butt down and I did it while the kids were watching TV over a few nights. And it was a pain in the ass. And I thought, gosh, this is terrible. But if it helps in search, then I'm fine with it. And I didn't have to do it in 2 nights. I could do it over time. Or I could pick my top keywords, or I could pick my top sellers. I could pick whichever listings sell the most. I could pick the popular things like copper and go through and fix those ones and then save the rest for later. So whenever there's a change, please make your first thought, which is mine, is, oh good, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to succeed with it and get it all done before anybody else figures it out. That gives you a really unfair advantage. While everybody else is spending their time on Facebook moaning and groaning, you can be getting in there and doing the work. And I think a little bit of this Zen-like place I've come to is from Google, right? I've been working with Google for 17 years, and they have changed everything over and over and over again. At one time, links were good. The only thing. At one time, you could copy your article 1,000,000 times, and that was better than having one good article. There was a period of time where 300-word articles were better than 700-word articles. And it's just all about the algorithms, right? And we talked about that at the very beginning. What Etsy's trying to do, and what their only goal is to make the buyers happy. And to do that, they need to make sure that the search items that come up are what the buyers want to buy. That goes back to our commercial intent. So all of this is coming together now. And what you need to do is make sure that you are using solid Etsy SEO practices, that you have thought them out, that you've targeted the correct keywords, that you are updating your shop, that you are renewing listings if you don't have different kinds of listings going up all the time, and you'll do great. I promise. And what I want to do is, if you put a link to your shop in the projects and let me know one listing, or if you'd like me to take a quick peek at your shop, I'll be more than happy to. But I'd love for you to put a listing in that you think is either amazing, yay, or is, I don't know what to do with this thing. And I'll be more than happy to take a peek and give you some ideas of how you could fix that. So we've talked a lot about how to find keywords, and it's really easy to think, okay, that's all well and good, but I really want to see some behind the scenes, how this really works in practice. So what I did was I went ahead and did a search for chandelier crystals. And this is on Etsy itself, and there's 31,000 results. And these are my chandelier crystals, large chandelier crystals. Now, one of the reasons why they show up on that first page is because I've SEO'd them for chandelier crystals, and also because they have a good conversion rate. I get a lot of views and I get a lot of people who buy them. And so there's a lot of really good things happening with those chandelier crystals. I had bought a huge bowl of them and they all match, and so it was really cool. I also had some littler ones that actually ranked better. I was sad when they all sold, but these ones kind of slid into its place. But this is where it gets kind of good. So this is on Google, chandelier crystals. Now, if you go to the all, they're not really there, right? This is mine, right? I don't really see it. You might find chandelier prisms. You're going to do that. But most people who are shopping will click on the shopping tab. And then the thing about Etsy, one of the reasons why I'm such a fangirl is this one's Etsy. This one's Etsy. That one's Etsy. And then this is mine. And the way that I know that it's such a good keyword is I wanted to take you behind the scenes in my shop, and I did a search for my shop stats, and here is my shop stats for this year. Chandelier crystals are getting 172 views, right? Now let's look at Google Shopping, and what you can do is you can click in here and you can see 351 times Google has sent people to these shop crystals. So that's really, really cool. Now, why do they rank the way they do, right? So chandelier crystals are very near the front of this. I also have vintage chandelier crystals, right? I'm not spamming it. I don't have it 1,000 times, but I do have it where it's appropriate. Teardrop crystals, those are all the other names that people do for those items. I used vintage chandelier crystals in my materials. Now, I have started, and of course I don't have it on here. I'll show you another listing before we go how I've started doing it. But one of the things that you need to remember is that in the mobile search, this is all that they see. They have to click another button. So when somebody asks you what you think is a stupid question like, can you tell me the dimensions? And you're like, oh my gosh, the dimensions are right in the details. They don't really see the dimensions, so I've started putting them right here in this area, in the materials area. I know it's not exactly a materials. And then I have chandeliers, pendants, and lights. That's the category, right? So I have it in the correct category. And then I have chandelier crystals here. I can't do vintage chandelier crystals because it's too long. But I have vintage crystals and things like that. So that's how you get it to rank using your keywords in an actual listing. And then this is where I think I did it last night, almost 10 inches long. So what I've started doing is in those materials, if there's any question about what the size of something is, I just did it again over here. Now, the attributes are putting it in there, which is glorious. So I guess I could take this out. But I did want to say the whole size is 13 by 8. I do love those attributes. I think that they're really going to help people with shopping, with being able to find things, with us getting fewer questions. But that is a little peek behind the scenes into one of my most favorite products that I sell.